Welcome to the Ex Terra Podcast. The Ex Terra mission is to explore and discuss the business of space and its effect on the national and global economy, as well as life on Earth. How does what happens in space affect your life every day? That's what we're exploring on the Ex Terra website, as well as on this podcast. My guest for this edition of the Ex Terra Podcast is Ben Haldeman, founder and CEO of LifeShip, which is planning to preserve and send human DNA to the moon. And Ben, thank you for joining me today all the way from Guatemala. It looks like it's lovely there today.
It is great to be here, Tom. Yep.
Let's start out by talking a little bit about your background, because as a graduate student at Berkeley, you designed instruments to look into life on Mars, and those were some of the precursor instruments to the Perseverance instrumentation that's currently on Mars. What was involved in that project?
Yeah, I did my grad school at Berkeley. I studied mechanical engineering, and I was in a chemistry and biochemistry lab, and we were looking at amino acids and microfluidics and laser spectroscopy to look for amino acids in the soil of Mars. So I built benchtop prototype instruments to classify which amino acids. And this was, 15 years ago. It was a project with JPL, and it was a precursor to what's up there now.
And that was all just part of your graduate studies? It was a university thing?
That was UC Berkeley. That was my master's and part of a PhD thesis. And then I left my PhD early to go build big telescopes around the world.
And let's talk about that a little bit, because you did start designing big telescopes and optical instrumentation. So delve into that for us a little bit.
Yeah, I joined the team out of Santa Barbara called Las Cumbres Observatory. And it's set up as a nonprofit, but a well-funded one, to set up a global network of telescopes to find new planets around other solar systems and study transient events in astrophysical events. Like when a new supernova pops up, we had enough telescopes around the world to automatically follow up on it and take images of it. So got to travel the world to big mountaintops and design telescopes, design instruments for them and set them up and get them working, and they've been used to find lots of new planets.
What led, Ben, to your interest in space and aerospace and that kind of technology?
Yeah, I grew up fascinated with space. I had a nickname as Spaceman as a kid when I was in Boy Scouts, and generally just came into my path more and more, and then started to be what I worked on and grabbed my attention. I think it space is a way to bring out the best in humanity, to bring forward hope and aspirations for the future of our species and our planet, and it's great technical challenges as well, and so it really captivated me for multiple reasons.
I think my interest in it came when I was an 11-year-old kid at summer camp and was fortunate enough to get to watch Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin walk on the moon at summer camp. That kind of cemented it for me. You can see how that might be.
Yeah.
Now, when you went to Planet, that's an Earth observation company. Earth observation is getting to be a big business these days. How did that experience influence your path?
Yeah, I was one of the early engineers to join Planet, and we grew up to 500 people in the 5 years I was there. We launched over 200 satellites while I was there, and I designed the camera system, and then went on to coordinating the rockets it went up to. And Earth observation with satellites really helped show me and teach me how much space can be used to help Earth as well. And I really brought that framework to, okay, we're using space, but it's here to record the whole Earth every day and take better care of our planet and be responsible citizens of our Earth.
So the thing about Earth observation is most people, when they think about space, they think about looking out. But Earth observation is all about sending something out and looking back. And that's, I don't think that a lot of people understand that that is really an enormous part of what the space economy is, because there's so much that we can learn observing from that distance, particularly at the kind of resolution that we're getting these days.
Yeah, it's been used, like the overview effect is humanity looking back on Earth. It's astronauts looking back at the whole Earth and seeing the Earth as one entity. And yeah, it's been powerful for the environmental movement, and for all sorts of good comes from using space to help humanity.
What were some of the interesting developments that came up while you were working at Planet? What was it that you were able to, what kind of data were you able to provide that hadn't been provided before?
Yeah, with a daily image of the whole Earth, you can see where every tree disappears every single day. You can see where ships are fishing. You can see where mining is happening or oil is happening. It really is. It's really a record of our planet, and you can't fix something and change something and really take care of something until you have a good view of it.
You know, it's been said that we went to space and discovered the Earth, which actually is very true. We didn't realize what kind of a fragile blue marble we live on until it got seen from a long way away, and how kind of small and significant this planet really is. Now, you talk about yourself as being an athlete, a yoga teacher, and an adventurer. So how did those kinds of experiences and interests influence you to found LifeShip?
Yeah. I used to be a professional cyclist. I used to climb big mountains and sleep on the side of El Capitan in Yosemite and climb big rock walls, and really, I think, honed both a sense of exploration and adventure, and then also living on my edge and becoming comfortable sleeping on the side of a cliff and comfortable leaning into life and going after big visions and big goals. And then over time, as I got more into spending time in the rainforest and spending time in meditation and yoga and working with shamans, I felt like my purpose really started to come through as helping care for the Earth in the long term, and leaving a long record of the incredible biodiversity we have on planet Earth, and then also helping our Earth expand outwards. And what came through a lot of that work is really that humanity, part of our purpose here in the universe, is to help make sure life exists beyond Earth. And I'm actually here in Guatemala right now. I'm working from here right now, and I was here 2.5 years ago, and I did this long hike back in the rainforest by myself, and was sitting surrounded by plants and insects and all the life, and I really had this. I think it's a similar feeling to the overview effect. I had a feeling of all of life on Earth has cooperated to help humanity spread life outwards, and really we're at this point where life has evolved here for 4.5 billion years, and now we're at a point where the Earth essentially is starting to birth life outwards. And so I started to see humanity as stewards for this, and part of a bigger role for the planet and in the universe, as far as ensuring life continues to exist.
We could talk about cycling another time. I did 22 miles just before this broadcast. It's just how I keep myself young and fit. Yep. At my kind of getting on towards advanced age. Let's talk a little bit about some of the business factors that have gone into establishing your current company. What kind of a company is LifeShip?
Yeah, so LifeShip is one of the first real consumer companies for space, where people can directly participate in a space mission. And so we've created a consumer DNA kit that's low cost and really accessible for a broad market, for people to add their DNA and their story to this record of humanity that gets sent out into space. And so we're on a first mission to the moon later this year, and we're sending a tiny time capsule, essentially, with DNA and people's profiles up to the moon, and looking to broadly connect people to space and to feel a part of humanity's future.
What was your light bulb moment on this project? What made you think, I want to send people's DNA into space?
Yeah, I think the biggest one was what I just mentioned, as far as the being in the rainforest here, and
Right.
Really feeling like part of our role is to send the seeds of life outwards. And then also, when I was working on satellites at Planet, we launched hundreds of satellites into space, and I remember the first one I worked on, and I had literally put my blood, sweat, and tears and sleepless nights into this satellite that went to space. And then it launched on a rocket. I watched the rocket launch, and then the satellite was in orbit. And I had this feeling of like, whoa, I literally touched that. My DNA is on that spacecraft that's now orbiting Earth. And that was a powerful experience for me, having touched something that went into space.
So go take us through the process about how collecting the DNA samples work, how you preserve it, and then how you intend to actually launch it. Will you actually be launching physical specimens? Will you be launching data that is encoded with DNA? What is kind of the plan for making this a reality?
Yeah. So there's a number of consumer genomics companies out there, like 23andMe and Ancestry.com, that really paved the way for curiosity for people in their genetic code. Mm-hmm. And so we have a small kit for around $100, where you get the kit and you provide a saliva sample with a swab, and then your actual DNA gets extracted out of your cells, and then we preserve your DNA in this polymer that we call synthetic amber, and that goes inside a small coin-sized capsule along with DNA from all different species and all different humans. And that shares a moon lander with a number of other missions, including a bunch of NASA missions, and there's rovers on the moon lander, and that launches on a rocket. We'll have a live watch party for that, and an event around the rocket launch, and then customers will get to track the spacecraft as it slings to the moon, and then the moon lander lands on the moon, and there's live video on that as well. And then the capsule just stays on the lander on the moon's surface forever, essentially.
How many DNA samples do you have room to send? What do you have an upper limit as to the number of samples that you can include in this mission?
So DNA is pretty tiny, and we're working on miniaturizing our storage technologies. The first mission later this year, we've already sent the capsule off to the lander, and that has over 1,000 people on it. And then we're on another moon lander in about a year and a half from now, and we're working on getting on more. And that we'll have. Yeah, we can fit thousands of people on it.
You're listening to the Ex Terra Podcast. I'm Tom Patton, and we're talking with Ben Haldeman, the founder of LifeShip. Ben, who's your target market, and how are you recruiting those people?
Yeah. What I love about our mission, it really has spoken to a broad audience, and there's people that come in from like us, from a space background, and people who love space, love humanity's outward motion into space, love the direction that we're headed. want to be part of the future in some way. So there's that sort of audience. And then there's a lot of people that space really speaks to in a more emotional way and in a meaningful way of being part of the cosmos. And so there's a lot of people that do this as a family or send their pet DNA and their DNA up on it. And so really both the sentimental, oh, I look up at the moon and I feel a piece of me is up there and I'm a part of the cosmos in a new way, to like the total science technology, people coming at it from that direction.
Now, you said something interesting, that you're not just sending human DNA, that you're including samples from almost the entire biome of the Earth. Is that the impression that I'm getting? Is that you're doing plants and animals and all manner of things to put all that on the moon?
Correct. Yeah, this first one, we have 450 different species on it, mostly plant species to start. And the big vision is to save a record of the Earth and collect, we know of about 1.5 million species on Earth. We think there's about 8.5 million species total. So there's a lot of species there, and over time, as we send a series of these out there, we'll continue to collect more and really make it a record of Earth.
Do you have a difficult time convincing people that that's important?
Some people just get it. many people get it. It's like, oh, of course we're not going to just ride out our time on Earth here, and that humanity has a bigger purpose or maybe fate or whatever to be an interstellar species and to continue the story of life outwards. And so, yeah, some people get it. Some people definitely don't get it and don't see the value in space for humanity.
It almost sounds like a premise for a science fiction novel where they have to go back and collect the capsule off the moon to recreate the Earth or some such thing out of the stored DNA. I'm getting a plot line in my head.
for sure. And that plot line exists in several sci-fi stories and books and movies. And the spin we're doing on this and the real vision here is that, yes, it could be a backup and it makes sense to save a record of where we are today. Though, like, the real vision is that we're celebrating humanity coming into relationship as stewards of the Earth, and we're helping Earth expand outwards. So really doing as an inspirational mission of humanity, helping the Earth and doing something bigger in the universe.
Now, let's talk a little bit more about the business aspects of this, because you're a graduate of the Fulcrum Venture Accelerator. How was that experience, and would you recommend that to other entrepreneurs?
It was a great program. It taught me, really helped align the company and myself towards growing this as both a commercial company, a company that investors are interested in, and we've raised some money already, and really helped me see it as a bigger commercial company.
Did you ever really envision yourself as an entrepreneur when you were working on things like the Mars projects and the telescope project? Did you ever think, I really want to do something on my own? Or are you, as some people have said, an involuntary entrepreneur?
Yeah, I was at Planet for 5 years, and that's one of the real success stories of Agile Aerospace and doing space in a new way and building a rapid growth company in space. And through that, I saw myself doing something in the future and starting something, and really it had to, I wasn't trying to force it, and it needed to really come authentically through as, okay, this is something that needs to be done, and I'm the person to do it. And this is and so I took a good 6 months of exploration and after working at Planet, and really spent spent a lot of time both, I wouldn't even necessarily say actively searching for what was coming next. It was more like letting what wanted to come through come, and the vision started to appear as far as helping Earth and helping spread life outwards.
But it's still a business. And so who's on your business team? And I'm not saying that you're not a competent business person, because I'm sure that you are, but not all of us have the kind of experience we need to actually run a company. So do you have a team that's behind you that takes care of, dotting the I's and crossing the T's and doing all of those things that make for a successful business?
We do. An incredible team has come together around this. We have about 10 people working on it now, and previous founders of e-commerce companies, and then creative direction, brand, and identity. People working on community and how we grow this as a meaningful endeavor for humanity and a meaningful business endeavor as well. And then we have a few investors that have come together around it as well that really bring a lot of business help.
When you talk to investors, and again, I'll kind of come back to convincing them that this is important and a worthwhile company to invest in, because investors want to see a return on what it is that they're investing. Kind of give me your pitch when you talk to somebody who you want them to give you money.
Yeah, we see a future where it just makes sense to be part of the human record. Like it's like common knowledge that, okay, you don't live your life without adding yourself to the record of humanity. And that space is a big part of that, because it's the record that gets sent outward and saved. But it's really also just the concept of, okay, you might know your great grandparents' names, but no one before that. Similarly, in the future, we think that people will be added to a permanent record or a forever record, and their DNA will be part of that, because we're continuing to learn more about DNA, and the vast majority of evolution and the tree of life here on Earth has just disappeared without a trace. And so, we think each person will want to be part of this record. And so we envision a rapid growth towards millions of people being part of this record.
Now, you mentioned a little earlier companies like 23andMe, and there's Ancestry.com, and those companies are taking DNA and examining people's genetic past. But it occurs to me that LifeShip.com is in essence taking DNA from humans and sending it into the future. Is that kind of a fair assessment?
Yeah, it is. Like a lot of the business models around DNA so far have been either your ancestors in your past, or what do I learn about my health now? And we see this being the future side of, okay, it makes sense to preserve yourself for the future.
You've already sold, I think, about 2,000 kits. You said you've got 1,000 on the first capsule that's getting ready to, the first lander that's getting ready to go to the moon. So you seem to be getting some good traction. Talk a little bit about your expansion plans, and will you be seeking additional investor financing for that growth?
Yeah, we've sold these initial couple thousand kits, all with limited ad testing on social media, and we're really getting the point of launching our new brand, getting it out there in a bigger way, and then really opening up new marketing and sales channels, and working on getting the story out there more. As far as investors, we are raising a bit more capital soon to really help throw some gas on getting the marketing out there and getting the story out and being on future ones. And if anyone's interested in talking about that, I'm Ben at LifeShip.com, and we have some incredible investors on the team already.
And we will have that information for folks on our website in association with this podcast. So hopefully we'll be able to get some folks looking at you a little bit more. Seems to me it would be like a great gift idea.
It is, yeah. And this was like it felt a little strange when I first realized this, but in some ways, our initial customers, some of them come from like the name a star market, where they just want to be part of space. And so what we're doing is doing that in a meaningful way, where it's actually a real mission that they're part of, and something that could be meaningful for our species in the future.
Oh, I know that my wife and I both have our names on whatever that was that NASA sent up a while back, and I think it went to Mars or some such place, but our names are up there. So yeah, I think we're your target market, Ben. Let's close with this. Look out kind of over the next 10 to 15 years and tell us what you see ahead, not only for your company, but for space commerce in general. It's a huge market. There's so many different aspects, and something like LifeShip is very much a niche, and yet it's all part of the space economy. So tell us where you see the space economy and space commerce in the next 10 to 15 years.
Yeah. Right now is an incredibly exciting time for space. The frontier is opening up, and we have many rockets and many commercial moon landers, and we'll really reach a tipping point in the near term. Maybe when Starship happens, or there will just start to be regular delivery to the moon, and humanity will start becoming multiplanetary. We'll start opening up Mars as well, and there'll be a moon base in the next however many years, 10, 15 years. And yeah, I think humans will start permanently living on the moon in the next decade or so. And as that happens, I think all sorts of new, really like the whole industry around everything needed for space and humans living in space, and this whole, more people will want a way to connect into space, whether that's space tourism or other applications such as LifeShip, where people can be part of this exciting time for humanity.
Is that kind of the same for investors as well? Because there are a lot of investors who are getting onto almost anything space related. Do you see that investment community is going to continue to be aggressive on space commerce?
I do. I see it becoming, becoming a much more accepted industry is being built, and a much greater draw into it. Many more investors seeing that, okay, this is all happening, it's all coming together. We don't know exactly how humans are going to be living on the moon or Mars, but there's a lot of companies that are needed to fill out all the different utilities and all the different things humans will need as they start to live in space. And so I see tremendous new interest coming into it, and people seeing it as, okay, this is something happening. It's no longer this far out future bet that they're trying to help enable. It's like, okay, this is all happening, and more people are getting involved.
And whether it happens in 10 years or 50 years, it is inevitable.
For sure. Yeah.
Ben, thank you so much. I appreciate it. It's been an interesting conversation, and that's lifeship.com if folks want to find out more about your current project and how they can have their DNA preserved and sent to the moon.
Thank you, Tom. This was wonderful being on here with you.
Yes, to the magic of Zoom from lovely Guatemala. Thank you, Ben. And that's going to do it for this edition of the Ex Terra Podcast. Find us on the web at xterrajsc.com. And be sure to connect with us on LinkedIn and follow us on Twitter at Ex Terra JSC. Until next time, I'm Tom Patton. Thanks for listening.